Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Ken Dow giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every Sunday right here on this channel. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about talent, raw talent. And when I say raw talent, there's a few people in this town who's been delivering and helping our young people use their talents to go to the next level. And if you hadn't heard about Raw Talent Sports, check out this little video and you'll see.
Off season is here, and you're not satisfied. So you ready to get back to work. Speed training, skills training. And you looking for a place you can get it all done in one spot. Well, welcome to Raw Talent. We breed champions.
We just believe in the process, and I mean...
This is Durant Grant, one of our captains.
We the best! You can't get no better!
It don't matter what it is. Champions. Don't matter what...
The Cleveland Browns select Denzel Ward.
Athletes that walk through these doors are different because the standard is different, so their hunger is different. They're trying to become the next.
New highest paid cornerback in NFL history, Denzel Ward.
Oh!
You got some offers?
Welcome to Raw Talent.
Hey! Let's go!
Train with us or lose to us, and that will never change.
So, everybody, I would like you to welcome Mr. Mark Harris to our program. So, Mark, how you doing, sir?
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you finally made it here. It was difficult getting this brother here, y'all. Y'all just don't even understand how difficult it was trying to get here. This guy was a hard man to get here, but I'm glad he made it here. Because this program to me, Mark, it means a lot to me because there are few people that when I got into this, I said, there's people I really wanted to interview and talk to because I thought they were important, and people who I made this program that I thought were people that I thought were awesome and doing good things in the community. And you were one of these guys. I know I met you years ago, and it was funny. I was telling somebody about it when we first met. Like everybody who meets Mark, my son was playing Muni football somewhere, and somebody walked up and said, "Oh man, your kid gonna be a big kid. You ought to be taking him to Raw Talent." Like, what is Raw Talent? Oh, Mark Harris, he's training kids over there. You ought to go meet him. And I took both of my kids, Anthony and Brandon, at that time. And Mark got a way of making everybody kid feel as if they're gonna be great. Trust me on that. Mark pumps you up. He get your kids in there, boy. He get them in there. He gonna tell them they all going to the league and they all gonna be great. But I got my kids there. Met Mark, and the funniest part about it, I remember we was working in this group called Blacks United and Local Democracy Bill, and I had some tickets to a dinner. And at the dinner, I went to Mark and I said, "Hey, Mark, you want to go to this dinner? I got 2 tickets, man." I said, "I'm gonna have this awesome guy speaking there. His name is Reverend Harris." And Mark looked at the ticket and said, "Man, this is my dad." I was like, "Oh, shit, really? Okay, it's damn. Okay, brother." And I knew his dad before I knew you. Yep. And working with his dad was always cool, super awesome guy. And so from there, I met Mark, and Mark was taking care of my sons and helping them to get through that process ever since then. So without further ado, Mark Harris, I wanted to, tell you that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because there's very few people who I really appreciate You one of them. So I wanted to tell you thanks.
Appreciate that.
So tell us about Raw Talent. And also, before we get into Raw Talent, tell us about yourself, Mark. So you are a PK, a preacher's kid. You grew up with one of Reverend Harris's kids growing up. What was it like growing up in the Harris household, man?
Man, listen, I can't speak on every PK, but with Reverend Harris, oh my goodness. My dad is a preacher's preacher. You know what I'm saying? He lived that. And so everything that we experienced it from not just the experience itself, but dad and the religious values that he installed in us, around us. And it was just sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Right.
Everything was by the book of Deuteronomy. You know what I'm saying? Everything was about some script, like no matter what I went through.
Right.
I could have, as a kid, used the bathroom on the floor on accident, and he's gonna find a way that some scripture that they ain't do that in Ezekiel. You know what I'm saying? You gotta work on that. He always, and for a while as a young guy, that was annoying growing up because it was like everything was compared or used or strategically around the scripture. But as I gotten older, I understood.
Was he strict?
Yeah,
that's why. He's strict, brother, man.
Pastor Harris,
strict guy.
Let me tell you something. I got stories. I don't know how long we got.
Yeah, you brother. We're one of the guys I want to hear. So we gonna talk as long as you want.
He's true to this, right? He was true to the scripture. He was true to the moral compass that he wanted Kim and I to have. He didn't play on certain things. Cutting up in school, disrespect to adults. You wasn't playing that. Somebody's picking on you, you can turn the cheek for 8 seconds. If they continue past 8 seconds, your job is to take care of business. There's certain things that he just did not play, but he also made us think. There were things that he would do that, would just, and I kind of used that at Raw Talent. Like I remember one time I was getting upset that my brother, Doe was getting real big. People don't understand that Doe was very muscular growing up, way past his time. And I would be so jealous of that because he had all the attention. Yeah, I was just a skinny, dark-skinned kid, no muscles.
But you were the youngest though, right?
I'm the middle child.
You're the middle, okay.
Jim's the youngest.
Okay, all right.
But Doe would, he had it.
Right.
The girls loved him. My mother's half Native American. People don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom is half Native American. Or at least a good chunk of it Native American.
Okay.
So Doe's hair was a little bit different from ours.
Okay.
Tanner skin, hazel eyes.
Well, you're right. Yeah,
right. A little different.
Right.
So so growing up, everybody was just at him. So I remember one day I was so upset. I was just jealous. And so my dad said, "You up here mad about what Doe got going on? What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? What do you want to do? Think about it. Dream about it." He said, "You know what? Go in this room." He took us in the room, and he made us lay down, head to head. Our feet the opposite way. Cut the lights out. He just told me, dream, whatever you want. Instead of being mad at somebody else about what you do and don't got, dream on what you want. Dream on it. And he would throw on this music. He had some Phil Collins on. I can see. I mean, the way he preached, that is the way that man lived. Like he made us. He was very thoughtful on how he wanted to get the point across.
Well, that was one of the ways I met him. And it was because of Angela Woodson. I shout her out. She, I was working on some campaign. Matter of fact, I know exactly which campaign it was. It was the Arts and Culture Levy was first coming out, and they wanted to make arts and culture a levy and stuff. And they wanted me to do my thing and work on the campaign. And I was working with the pastors, and she said, "You need to go get Reverend Harris." And I'm like, "Why Harris?" And she's like, "He's the most artistic pastor we got." She's like, "He be jumping from the rafters and all kinds of stuff." And she said, "He's very artistic." And that was the moment I met him, and me and him been cool ever since. And I met him, and it was sort of like we knew each other. And you know how your pastor is, man. Took me in the office. Every time I think about them water machines, I think about him because he swore that water machine swore the best water since the coming out of the springs. He's like, "You got to trace this water." So we did that, and he's been cool ever since then. But yeah, I could tell he was very artistic growing up.
Yeah, he really just lived out, and everybody knew him. I got another story. So Denzel Ward is getting drafted. So Nicole, his mom, had called and said, "Hey, Mark, we want to give you tickets, fly you down." And I'm like, "What?" Right? My wife, she wanted to go. but she knew that was a father-son thing. Doe couldn't make it for that reason, so it was just me and my dad went. So it's the day before the draft, and they have this brunch. It's beautiful out there in Dallas, Texas. And we're eating in this real nice hotel. I forgot the name of the hotel. It's really nice. And we're eating our food. And while I'm eating the food, because all these guys are in the players or whatever, but you don't know who's a player. You just know there's some big dude. It could be his cousin.
Right.
So we're eating our food, eating our breakfast. And across the table from where me and my dad was sitting at, this guy, this big dude keeps turning around looking at us. Now, I don't know if he's looking behind us. Then he's looking at my dad. And the guy who with him was looking at my dad. And it wasn't a pleasant look, but it just kept happening. And every time I looked up, you know how you kind of catch eyes, hoping that you don't catch eyes. But you catch. So I'm like, man, what's going on, right? So Roger Goodell's about to come in to get everybody to come out. He's going to address all the draftees coming in. So we all had to leave out, and the draft players going to stay in, and all the rest of them going to come in, and the players and whoever's going to speak. As we're walking out, I'm thinking, okay, we're past that, whatever that was. As we walk out, that guy stops us. And this big dude, I'm recognizing, I know this big dude. But I'm like, he can't be a player because the players are coming in and we're leaving out. He stops my dad. He said, "Are you from Cleveland?" The guy who was with the big dude. He said, my dad said, "Yes." "So you a preacher?" And my dad said, "Yeah, Pastor Harris, the demonstrational preacher."
Wow.
Oh, the guy who pops out the casket, that guy. So it went from because I'm like, oh, we're about to have some smoking. So I'm like, "Dad, what'd you do? You ain't told me about." But it went to that, man, you did these things. The guy used to play for the Cleveland Browns.
Wow.
And while he was playing there, he would come to church with one of the friends, lady friends he was dating at the time. And he ended up being I forgot that man's name. He ended up being the assistant, the liaison for NC State.
Wow.
That big dude was Bradley Chubb.
Wow.
And so he's telling Bradley Chubb's parents to meet me and meet my dad. And,
wow.
And so I say that story because there was no place that I can go. Remember one time we had a bus tour. We went out to California. That bus tour to California, somebody looking at me up and down. "You Derek's son." I'm like, "Nah, I'm Larry's son." I use either Larry's son or Derek's son. Right. So you ain't crazy because Derek was crazy. You the good one. You Larry's son. And, but no matter where we went,
that's wild.
People had good things to say about my dad. That makes you feel good as a person. So to know who I am, I'm Pastor Larry L. Harris's son. I basically live my life not to please him, but not to burden him either. Okay. And we had our moments.
Right.
But, I really was blessed. I'm still blessed to have him as a father because even though it had restraints on you, it was the foundation that I needed. That a lot of these young men need that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah,
it's bad now.
Right.
And I'm really one of the lucky ones who had Pastor Larry L. Harris, as crazy as he can be, as wild as he can be with how he want to get his point across. Man, that's kind of what me, raw talent.
So let's talk about that then. Coming from that and growing up in that, what high school you went to? You went to Shaker, right? Shaker. You guys were always in Shaker
Heights.
The Shaker Heights High School. And you weren't a bad athlete yourself, right? Right? You played football and you was a wrestler though, right? Football and wrestling. And how well did you do?
So I was picked a place in states in high school. I was 26-0. And up until
I remember your story. So go ahead.
Up into sectionals.
Yeah. Tell everybody about that story.
Well, my mom's mom, Native American, she was dying with cancer. And so right before the season kicked off, my mom and dad, because my mom's only child, my mom's from Spring Hill, Louisiana.
Wow.
So when my mom's mom got sick, my mom took off.
Right.
My dad was back at home at first, but then, he got to be with his wife. So basically my senior year, I'm left to hold down the fort.
Wow.
Now my previous year, my junior year, I was 15-5. I had beat some state place winners. I was really starting to catch on, but then I dislocated. I had a subluxation of my shoulder, so I couldn't finish the season. So I was robbed of that opportunity my junior year with that experience of going down the states. Maybe I would have won it. Maybe I would have just placed. I don't know about that opportunity. I was robbed of that. So in my senior year, here we go again, some drama. My mom and dad took off to Spring Hill, Louisiana. My dad to be by her side. And so I'm holding down the fort. I got a girlfriend now, my wife now, girlfriend then. My sister, she decides that she wants to become a woman while my mom is out of town and I'm here. And I had a foster brother who was staying with me. He wasn't my foster brother, but to go to Shaker, we took him in. So I was holding on the fort, and my matches kept getting closer and closer, but I was winning.
What was Doe?
Doe was in college.
Oh, Doe was gone.
Yeah, so Doe was back and forth as best as he can, but it's me.
But he big brother anyway. He gone.
You know how that is. So
yeah.
I'm holding down the fort, and so man, it was hard cutting weight. I was cutting 20 pounds a week because I was 165 naturally.
Okay.
But also these two twin brothers who were good, you know, we all three were on the same weight, and I was better than all of them.
Okay.
Right? So you know, all three of us in the lineup. So I was a thinner of the threes. I would cut down to 145.
Wow.
Without my mom making those meals and making sure that strict, you know, that foundation was there, that was tough. And so it got down to sectionals. And I remember right before sectionals, my grandmother had passed. Went down to see her. And I remember she knew she was about to fade out of here. And she's going to see us for the last time. And she threw her blanket over her head because she didn't want to see us go. Because she knew it was going to be the last time. Ken, for the longest, I could not shake that.
Really?
Yeah, because she was the only one that would really make sure that I wouldn't get missed. Because, you know, I'm a middle child, and Doe was very special with his musical talents. Kim was cute and she could sing. I was just this dark-skinned, skinny boy with glasses that everybody laughed at. And so my grandmother always made sure every birthday, everybody got something.
Wow.
She just really tried to go out of her way because she understood I was a middle child. I didn't have no talents. So, you know, with that being said, you know, I went into sectionals with that, and things were just kind of spiraling out of hand. And I just didn't close the deal, didn't make it out of the state. I ended up going to college and wrestling on accident on a football scholarship. I was beating up the football players.
Really?
Yeah, I would, like, you know, take downs for money.
Right.
Like, I bet you I could take you down. And so I would take them down, but then the coach got tired of me. When the summer training is happening, the wrestling team is out there in precondition, you know, get ready for the season. He went and yelled out, "Hey, Coach Ostrander, I got a guy who can beat your guys." And I'm like, "No, these are wrestlers. Your football players, those linemen, they're not wrestlers. Those are just big guys.
They're just big guys.
I can slam them. This is a wrestler." He made a steak dinner bet on my behalf that I would go out and I could beat him. He said, "Harris, just go win the match and get us the steak dinner, and I got you." So I ended up going out for the team and not taking it serious because these guys are serious. This is college wrestling. So you on the team, it was an open tournament. And so I end up having to wrestle in the open tournament. You could put two guys at the same weight class, representing the same school. Well, somehow I kept winning. I ended up going against him in the finals. They're a starter. I beat him.
Wow.
Yep. And so from there, now that was 176. And
you was wrestling at 176?
Yeah, because my natural weight, really, at that time, I get in college, I'm like 180. But 176.
Well, you ain't skinny no more at 180.
No, at that time. No, I was starting to put on some weight.
Right.
So I beat that guy in the finals. And it was like, so I was going to quit. I got to win the steak dinner, right? And it was over. No, not in Iowa. Remember, that's where I was born. I'm born in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah, I ain't from Cleveland.
Oh.
I was born in Des Moines.
Okay.
I thought you knew that.
No,
yeah,
I know.
Dad met my mother at Drake University.
Wow.
And that's where T-Boz used to stay with my mom.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Like my family, they would stay down the street.
So when did y'all move to Cleveland?
Second grade.
Second grade. Wow.
Yeah, second grade. But yeah, so in Iowa, you good in wrestling, you're not quitting this team.
Wow.
And it was like, nah, you gonna wrestle this way. And then I'm like, okay. And then, so I kept going. I made it to nationals. But what ended up happening is they changed my weight class. Somebody got hurt. They put the guy who I beat, he was mad that he's not in. So they put him in at that weight class, and they gave me the option to wrestle up because somebody got hurt.
Okay.
So I went up. I ain't got to cut no weight. Fine. And, I think I'm strong. I can handle my own. I'm like not losing. So I get down to nationals, and I make it to semis. And I'm wrestling this guy who was oddly built. But Ken, when I say this guy was unbelievably strong, when you wrestling 197,
you're almost 200 pounds, man. That's what I'm saying.
But at that time, I'm starting to be around 186, so it's not no problem for me, right? Those guys are cutting for major weight, like 200.
Oh, right. They cutting. Yeah, exactly.
Guess who that guy was? I didn't even know until about a couple of years ago when he won a UFC championship.
Ooh.
Daniel Cormier.
Ooh, really?
I lost to him. He wrestled for Colby, Kansas, which was in our conference, but I didn't have to wrestle him at the time because I was in the lower weight class.
Okay.
Daniel Cormier, I lost him in the semis.
Wow, that's a good one to lose to.
97, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's
Cormier was a beast.
That was the strongest man. Only lost 5 to 2.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
Ain't no joke over here. But when I tell everybody the story, like, this is the strongest guy I ever met in my whole entire life. And he looks like nothing.
Right.
You see his build. He ain't built like
no
soft-spoken guy. That dude was a warrior.
Wow.
I almost lost my eyeball trying to stop. It felt like it.
Right.
Trying to stop him from taking me down. The pressure was like ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah. So, man, like, wrestling was really the sport that my dad wanted me to do.
Right. That's what he always talked about.
He always wanted me because I was really good at it. You could have my leg and I'll flip out of there and then take you down. But I didn't never like it because he made me do it.
Because he made you do
it.
Oh, you wanted to play football.
All I wanted to do was play football. Everybody kept telling me how good I wasn't, or more so, I was just small. So they kept putting people in front of me. They didn't give me the opportunity.
So what was the resentment? Why you didn't want to play? Because Dad wanted you to play and you was good at it.
So I was good at it, but I went out for the basketball team. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to play football and basketball. I went out for the basketball team and I was making it. And Dad came in one day and said, "That's done. You're going to wrestle."
Oh, because they were playing at the same time. And so he wanted you to wrestle.
He was like, "You're wrestling. That's done."
Wow.
And so, like, what am I going to do? Fight him?
Wow.
No. I got more stories for you. You ain't fighting him. That man could run too. And I ran at that time 4.5. And that man,
really?
Oh my God, yeah. But he told me what I had to do. I was always that way. I was going to be respectful with it. But so he made me wrestle. So I was losing every wrestle. This is my sophomore year. I was losing every match on purpose. I made varsity.
Wow.
And I was losing every match on purpose. Like, I would not even try. I was 0-15.
Really?
Yep. And then he said, he tricked me. Ken, he's good. He said, "Okay, you've done all you can do. I see you gave it everything you got. And you did what I asked you to do. You will beat. So at this point, you can quit. You don't have to wrestle no more. You lost your last match. You don't have to wrestle no more. You did everything I asked you to do." At that point, I'm like, no, I didn't even try.
Right.
So well, hold on. So you said I could quit? Well, hold on. I ain't quitting on no loss. I went 5-15 and won the whole league.
Wow.
And then
5-15.
The last 5 matches was all league matches.
Okay.
I went 5-15.
Right.
I never lost a match again from that point.
Wow.
And then I ended up messing around my sophomore year, getting ready for sectionals, you know what I'm saying, and fighting back through that. And I was like, dang, all right, whatever. So then my junior year, once again, I was 15-5. And then messed my shoulder up. Then my senior year, boom.
So you went to college, you said, but on a football scholarship?
I went to college. I went to Iowa Central Community College. I had to get my grades up. I didn't know the importance of, well, you're eligible to play high school football, but you're not eligible through the NCAA. Like, we didn't know that. My dad was making sure his kids wasn't cutting up in school and wasn't failing. But my GPA at the time from all those years of just being eligible, 1.9999. That was the longest 9.
Right.
And so I ended up going to a school, Iowa Central, because he was familiar with, because he played junior college football in Iowa. Okay. Went to a school called Centerville. Okay. So I went to Iowa Central in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and they had an excellent football and wrestling program. They gave me a good package, saved them money, and I went in there and started on football and wrestling. And for football and wrestling? Made All-American. Okay. Made nationals in wrestling, made All-American in football. So I came to that school with like one offer from Mount Union and had a wrestling scholarship offer, but my GPA was too low from OU. Okay. They really wanted me. But I ended up going there, doing well. I had about 43 offers leaving out of there. I had some Big Ten offers, but I was just so ready to get back home. Right. That when Kent State, I was about to either go to Iowa State. I was considering Mississippi or North Dakota State. Coach Heupel. Okay. Who is Josh Heupel's dad, who is the coach over at what's his name now? I think he's coach at Tennessee. Okay. I ended up just choosing Kent State University. My girlfriend and my wife now. I wanted to get back home. How long you played at Kent? You finished Kent? I was a 2-year. Yeah, I played out. As soon as I got there, they had a guy in front of me. And after the Youngstown State game, they put me in. I had to guard Randy Moss for a little bit. Really? Because he played for Marshall. Okay. And it never looked back. Wow. So you was a DB? Yeah, as your corner. Yeah. I started off as a nickel because I was a late transfer in. So they already had a guy at the starting position, but they recruited me for a reason. He was faster than me. He ran pure 4.3, but he wasn't a technician. And I was dog nasty. And then he got hurt. And when he got hurt, it was over.
So you went from that to coming out of school, and what made you decide to get into the raw talent?
I got shot by some arena football teams that was coming out. That was pretty popular then.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I went to arena football tryout. It was the Buffalo Destroyers. And while I was there, the process is so brutal. I kind of run raw talent the same way. So I'm destroying these guys, but it was just politics. Guys who they knew and had some NFL experience. And that's also a money grab, those arena tryouts. I end up getting picked up by Arena 2 team. They saw me and was like, hey, you killed this workout. So if they don't pick you up, we'll take you. Well, Arena 2 money is not the same as Arena 1 money.
Well, so what is, for our listeners who don't know when you say that, what is the money when you say that?
At that time, the average salary for Arena 1 football, which was pretty popular, it was on TV and everything, was around.
That was our, the gladiators we had?
We had gladiators and stuff like that. So at that time, it was like around $50,000 to play football for 5 months.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. And then you get yourself more exposure. It was really what the NFL needed as a hybrid segue for, like a G team or,
right.
But, it was just kind of getting going, and it was pretty popular at that point.
I remember, right.
But then the Arena 2 team you'll get paid like $500 a game.
Wow.
So, you play a lot of games, but it's not, you better have a day job.
Right. And don't get hurt.
Yeah. And at that time, that was what I kind of had to resort to because of some other things that had happened. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go play some football and see how this go. So while I was down there, I kept getting phone calls. Nate Clements had called. Justin Fraley was his name. He went to Benedictine to go to the University of Minnesota. He was dating my sister for a hot second. Like, guys would call me because I was just starting raw talent.
Okay.
But I was just training guys. It wasn't called raw talent. It was just Mark Ayers up at the spot because I would make the guys from Shaker, when we was in college, come home.
Okay.
And when we came home from school, we would just work out the Shaker boys doing our workouts that we learned at school. But then it just started to grow and people started asking, hey, where are you home? Because I want to work or get some work in. These guys are playing Division I ball. So it was in the back of my mind, well, maybe I should do this, But I kind of wanted to see out the process of trying to pursue my dream of playing in the NFL. So I end up out of nowhere in the middle of that Arena 2 football season. I don't know who did it. I got a call from the Buffalo Bills.
Really?
Rochester's like 20 minutes away.
Right.
I don't know how they saw me. I don't know. The Lord, according to Dad, growing up with the Lord.
Well, you know what he's
in the book.
It was happening.
Yeah, so,
it was in the cards a long time ago.
And that's all I ever wanted to do was to prove to my dad that I could make the league.
Right.
So when they called me in, I had just earlier that couple months ago had a high ankle sprain. And man, I was all messed up. I got through the season. I'm getting through the season. A phone call happened. And the guy was like, hey, we want you to come in for a workout. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but I had a high ankle sprain. And it was like, so you telling me you're not coming? I said, I'll be there. And on that high ankle sprain, I ran a 4.52.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I ran a 4.52. I killed that thing. And in the drills, I just destroyed it. And Dad don't get emotional, but I could tell he was proud of his son. And so
he went with you on that.
Yeah, he was there. I made sure he came and got me and took me there.
Okay.
And so for a hot second, my dad saw me have a Buffalo Bills jersey on.
Okay.
Took the pictures and all that. You seen that.
All right.
You got that from your son.
Right.
People doubted me. Lightweight doubted, but you seen it.
Right.
And we up at Orchard Park together.
All right.
And I wouldn't want nobody else at that process with me but him. And so we went through that. And I got that taste. They actually wanted to sign me.
Okay.
But I think it was a lockout. So I kind of had to wait. They were calling me every week just to make sure I didn't go nowhere. My wife felt this. She's like, this is real. But they were taking too long. Fast forward the story. I got to get money because at this point, I'm only making $500 a game.
Right.
If the coach want to sit you a game, you don't make no money in that game.
Wow.
And I wasn't a friend of his because I started kind of going off on him a little bit because this wasn't even a real team. It's something he was doing. I'm like, man, I come from a Division I program. This ain't it. Right. I end up getting a phone call from the Buffalo Destroyers who was at that workout. The team I originally tried out for.
Right.
They were at that workout for the Buffalo Bills. And it was like, look, they taking too long. We got a contract for you for $43,000. You want it or not? I said, yeah. I live in Buffalo for $43,000. Ain't number 3.5 hours from Cleveland.
Right.
So I went to sign that contract. I'm happy. They folded and moved to Columbus Destroyers. Spillman's the coach, and Earl Bruce. They're the coaches for that team. So now I'm thinking, cool, I'm coming home. No, that team comes unencumbered. You have to now rework out for a team I already signed a contract for.
Oh, God.
Lord, what is you saying? What's going on here? But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to kill this. I'm faster at this point. I'm back to around. My ankle is healed. I'm running at least 4.43. So I'm back. So I go and do that tryout. I move back home. Because I'm like, we out of here. We out of Rochester.
Right.
Man, I destroyed that camp. Destroyed it. At the end of the camp, he comes up to me and says, listen, you're the best DB here by far. But we're in Columbus. They got some Ohio State guys, Damon Moore and Gary Berry, who was Ohio State alums. These guys were some dogs. And they're going to go that route.
Wow.
I am heartbroken. So I knew that I was coming back home. I thought I was going to make the team. They're going to go celebrate. We went to Valley View movie theaters to go watch Finding Nemo with the kids. I'm thinking it's all going to be good. And as I'm in there, I'm heartbroken. I did not know how to tell my wife what was going on. Oh. Because I got a whole family at this point. Right. I'm married with 2 kids. Right. We're trying to make it.
So you knew and nobody else knew.
She didn't know. And so, I said, I told her I'll find out. I'm in that movie, and it gets to a part where the one fish gets caught in the net, and they're saying, just keep swimming. When she was saying that, Ken, I'm in the corner, bawling. I'm bawling in the corner. My wife was like, what's going on? I said, I didn't make the team. And she just hugged me. She said, but you're here with your family. And just keep swimming. And I just kept, and I went home. Just kind of messed up, but I was encouraged. Right. Why did I wake up that morning? The Columbus Destroyers had called me and said, hey, we want to bring you in as a DS, a 2A player, but we have to bring you as a receiver because we don't have room for a DS. They kind of got that guy, but we know you're better than those guys. Come in as a receiver, and I'm going to let you get some defensive back reps. So we're going to sign you to a $46,000 contract, and you're going to come as a receiver. Now they don't know I can't catch. But,
I'm sitting here when they singing this to you like, damn, Mark, are you a receiver?
You know I can't catch. I can get open. I can catch a fly ball. I can catch incredible passes.
But those passes, you guys, you got catching these days. They like,
man, it was. So I get in there. I never played receiver. They had me there doing the receiver drills. And was like, Harris, go DB.
He was.
Yeah, I destroyed it. My roommate was Damon Moore. The guy who's supposed to replace me on the roster. After a week of workouts, Damon Moore, I came in the room, he's packing his bags. I said, what's going on? You getting back? Because he was from the NFL. He was the Bears, and he came from Brown. He said, let me tell you something, man. Who'd you play for? I said, I just played in college, and I played at Arena Football, Arena 2. He said, you never played in the NFL? I said, no. He said, man, you one of the coldest DBs I ever met. Your jam press coverage is ridiculous. You got this. Like, what are you training? I said, I just train myself. I just train high school kids and I go home. He said, man, I'm out. I ain't making this team. He said, you a dog. Look, I'm out. I'll make this a little easier for you. And he walked out. I'm on the team. Everything's going good. I got an interception. I bruised my heel getting an interception. Coming up the ball, bruised my heel a little bit, but it was not permanent. It was just, but I did not want to miss this big scrimmage we had. And they told me, Mark, just sit down. I'm like, no, I ain't getting nobody take this money from you, right? So I try to play.
Because you wouldn't paid if you didn't go on the scrimmage?
When they do a song, if you're hurt, they'll come around, almost every organization, they'll come around and sing this song. Can't make the club in the tub. Like they'll get everybody to come singing. Oh, my bad. Can't make the club in the tub. And you feel that pressure. No, you got to play. So with a bruised heel, and you ever bruised your heel, it's hard to take a step. Okay. Because you feel that sensation all through your foot and coming through your heel. But man, I put that shoe on, but I didn't have it. And it was one of the worst times. A guy who I normally dominate, like they put this guy against me. Oh, I had my worst day. And it was still a good day, but I made my worst day on that day. And I literally got cut the next day.
Really?
And I was like, Chris Spielman and I still had a relationship for the longest. Like, because he did not like how that went. But it was, once again, they wanted to sell tickets. I think tickets were low. And they brought Damon Moore and Gary Berry back. They brought him back to sell tickets. I was the man out. So then I said to myself, man, I'm just driving home. I wasn't even sad. I just said, this is the Lord's will. Then the Buffalo Bills called me.
Ain't over yet.
I'm on my way home and the Buffalo Bills called
Mm.
And they said, hey, this is it was John Guy. He was like, hey, did we get ready for you? We can bring you in, ready to be a bill. And I was not excited. He said, you don't sound excited. I said, man, I don't know what's going on in my life right now. It's a lot to deal with. And I got a family. He said, I tell you what, it's the weekend. Just give me a call by Wednesday. It was Tuesday, it was Wednesday. And I'm like, all right, I'll give you a call back by Wednesday. Never called again.
You never called?
I was at peace with it. I was getting so many phone calls. Hey, Coach Mark, hey, can you do these drills with me? What you doing? Nate Clemens call. People are calling like, yeah, I got a chance to show my dad that I could do this, but I think...
Hey, what's up? We're going to hear more from Mark Harris, but I want to take a quick moment just for you to be able to subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing, or if there's somebody you think we ought to bring on the program, you can leave it in the comments and we're going to get right on it. See, it's really just that simple. So now let's get back to Mr. Harris and see what he's talking about. You didn't feel you had nothing else to prove. You was good with yourself. You did what you wanted to do with everything else. And I think you just got to that point that you just was good with it. And
I was good with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was forced to stop playing football in the sandlot, in the streets, when I made varsity football. And at that point, I was just taking the kids in the neighborhood and start training them. And then next thing you know, I just kind of kept doing the training. And that kind of just was my calling. I just remember it. So when that opportunity came, I was kind of done with all that process. I lived in 3 cities in 1 year.
Right. Yeah. That was a long trip you just took me through.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a wild trip in itself. Now, the business ain't easy. Oh, hell, I remember you had some days with raw talent shit. You know, that wasn't like a cakewalk neither. Getting that started and it had its ups and downs, and it seems like you're doing really good now, though, right?
Yeah, business is going well. I'm ready to take that next step.
Before we go any further, because we hadn't did that, explain to people. We showed them the video, and if they looked at that and like, okay, still explain to people what is Raw Talent and what you do there at Raw Talent.
Raw Talent Sports is, if it depends on who you ask. For me, Raw Talent Sports started as a training group working to perfect football players, especially the defensive backs. It grew from defensive backs to, well, I went to showcase with this guy. He did well in drills, but he didn't run a good 40. So let's go work on that. So I was a certified trainer from being an arena football player. That was my second job. And so I started training athletes just to be faster and learn how to do the combine stuff. And so then it went from there to let's bring all these athletes. So Raw Town Sports is basically a one-stop shop for football players who want to play the game of football in high school or collegiate level. And then for athletes, it was a place to develop as an athlete. There's a lot of speed and strength groups that work on or focus on improving your bench press, improving your size, and trying to improve your linear speed development. But they have no clue on how to really make those hips move,
mobility,
change direction, real ability. They just kind of go off the textbook stuff of what they understand versus what the athlete really needs to be considered. So it started off as that and grew into what we see today. Now we got multiple guys who have made to big time collegiate level performances as far as, you know, NCAA's bowl games. We got national champions. We got guys who are Super Bowl champions, Pro Bowlers. Twice now I've had the highest paid defensive back in NFL history.
So let's talk about that, your relationship with Denzel Ward. How did that matriculate?
Denzel's from our church.
Okay.
So I didn't know Nicole and Paul as much as my dad and brother and sister did because I was that guy in the back who just moved off in the balcony while the sermon was happening until dad caught me. You know, Nicole had approached me about her son, PJ, and said, hey, you run Raw Talent and, you know, your dad speaks a lot about you. Can you help my son? And she said, I heard a lot about your program. That's one thing. That woman is thorough. She do her homework. She don't play. Nicole Ward don't play. So her and Paul was like, hey, help PJ. And they paid me to do what I had to do. And we got PJ a couple of offers, some HBCU offers. He became a better defensive back. He was able to play in his position because he was playing DN as a skinny guy. He was playing
What
DN.
school did he go to?
He was at Nordonia.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul
Right, you know,
Jr.
I did recognize. Yeah, he was at
Paul Jr.
Nordonia. Right.
But then he ended up going to Ashland and getting his degree there.
Okay.
And then she came to me next year and was like, hey, what you did with PJ, I want you to do the exact same thing with Denzel. And, you know, when I saw him, he was young. And I said, okay, you know, I think he got some gifts. She said, we know you can take him to the next level. He had no offers. Nobody knew who he was. And so because of Duran Grant, the forefathers of Raw Town Sports, you know, these guys who came before him, I was able to make some phone calls and say, hey, This kid lines up. I do my assessment.
He looked like an unlikely kid too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
because he's not a.
skinny,
He's a skinny kid. He was
quiet.
not and quiet. I'm saying I can look at it, he's quiet. Because I know in your program, when you get it going, it's a lot of kids in there. And if you're not that kid, it's easy to get you can lost in the shovel. Mm-hmm. And for him to be where he is now, I mean, y'all did some. He had to pop. He did some work there. Yeah,
and it was more so. I remember he lined up to run a 40,
mm-hmm.
and he had the wrong hand and foot down. He takes off and runs a 4.5 flat.
Whoa.
That's handheld time, but I'm pretty mean with that clock.
Yeah.
Kids never like my time.
Right.
Coach Mark, I went somewhere else and ran a faster time. Man, what they doing?
Right.
I'm mean. You flinch, I'm gone. Right. And this kid ran a 4.5. I mean, ran again. 4.51. I had somebody else. I'm like, this boy don't know what he's doing and can run.
Mm-hmm.
But that don't get me just because you can run fast don't mean
right. Okay, we've seen a lot of them.
Then you come out to Saturday, at that time it was Saturday nights.
Right.
And he was just routing guys up. Nobody could run with him.
He's on the offensive side.
He's on the offensive side.
Right.
So I'm like, and he's about 5'10" at that time. I said, let me try you at corner. I'm a receiver.
So what made you want to put him? Yeah, that's the question. Because again, here's a skinny kid. You know, he's fast, but he's a skinny kid. And we don't want to keep calling him skinny because I do want him on my program.
You know,
yeah, he's a small kid, all right?
He's wiry built.
Built. Yeah. How you convince him to get on defense, and what made you see in him that he was a DB?
I begged Paul Ward. I begged his father. I said, just make him, if you pay attention, just give me 30 minutes with him. Him and Frank Clark never did the whole defensive side of training. Just give me 30 minutes. Just give me 30 minutes. I know these drills. First of all, my drills, I was killing them. Drills. Right. You didn't want to be over there in the first place. But his dad gave me 30 minutes. Every Saturday night, 30 minutes. That's all I needed. And I started seeing some things. And what I knew about recruiting at that time, the 5'9" corner was becoming extinct. They wanted 5'10" plus guys.
Right, because the receivers were getting tall and they were basically just throwing the ball up in the air, right?
5'9" guys. It was what they were looking for. I wanted my receivers and DBs to be able to go to a camp and say, I can do whatever. Coach, recruit me.
I can go each side.
Right. And he just listened. After a while, he started liking it. You know, not so much that he would not do receiver at all. He wanted to always run a fade on somebody. But when I told him to come over, it was less arguing, and it was boom. So then when he got into his senior year, going towards his senior year, nobody still knew who he was. So I called Stephen Klingscale, who's the DB coach now for University of Michigan, or sorry, for Ton, that team up north. But I said, I got a kid. And he was like, who is this guy? I showed him the tape. His tape was legit, but you can tell he was thin. So nobody would bite on him. I called automatic schools. Nobody was biting. I'm like, man, I'm Mark Harris. I didn't give y'all Durant, Grant, Jordan, maybe. I'm giving you guys, Shaq, Washington. I'm Mark Harris. So we go to this camp called the Best of the Midwest, and it's in Indiana. And I kept telling everybody, this kid runs 4.3. Oh, Mark, you're a handheld 4.3. All right. Okay. I said, I'm a mean clocker. He probably runs faster than that. But I guarantee he runs. He's not going to go worse than 4.35. He go to that camp. He lined up. He had all these popular kids everybody was reporting on. I got this skinny kid who don't talk, who stands awkwardly. He gets in that 40. Boom. 4.27.
Whoa.
So everybody was like, hold on. And Coach Andrews, who was the DB coach at Glenville at the time, he's now the head coach at Euclid. He was like, hold on. And Bill Green, remember Bill Green, Scout, and he's Scout.com. They said, he got to run that again. Run that back. Took off. Boom. 4.29.
Wow.
Nobody wanted to put 4.2 on their clocks because it wasn't electronic. So nobody wanted to be caught giving out a bad time.
Right.
So everybody gave him 4.31.
Wow.
And so then he did a broad jump, jumped to 10.7. They're like, who the heck is this kid? I said, I told y'all. But I had a couple dudes, Justin Rankin, and Larry. I had some dudes.
So let's talk about that because we can go all over. And because I want to go back. One of the things that Raw Talent does do, and that you do, and you do the training, but also talk a little bit about the camps that you take the kids on and the bus tours. And that's what you're talking about now.
So basically what we're speaking on is the fact that when I didn't feel it was any good to train a kid and then not get the kid exposure. I started learning what our kids needed by taking these kids to camps. But when I looked at these camps and how these kids were getting offers, I said, I got a gym full of kids that would snatch these kids' souls. So then I started saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to take y'all kids on a bus tour. We go to certain camps that got multiple schools. Because I was going to showcases that had like more than one school there.
Right.
So whatever kid you got on your bus, there was a school for that kid.
Correct.
You know, so I said to myself, I'll do a bus tour and we will go to camps like that.
Similar to the college tours where everybody else, the NAACP, Urban League, they get these kids together. They put them on bus tours to go to various different colleges. You were taking kids, putting them on the bus, and you guys were going to these colleges and they were working out to get scholarships. That's huge. Yep. And how long you been doing that, Mark?
Oh, shoot. I would say 13 years.
Been doing that 13 years on a bus tour.
For 20 years, but I didn't start doing the bus tour to a certain period of time. So I'll say about 13, maybe 15 years.
So if you were to say how many scholarships you think you done got kids in school?
Over 500.
These over 500 scholarships, personally, just taking kids out there, getting them, coaches looking at them and getting them into schools. And while we're on that, name some of the kids who done came through your programs that may have went on and did other things.
Well, I always got to start off with Jordan Maben, who now works front office for the New York Giants. He worked for the Atlanta Falcons, but he went to the NFL. He went to Northwestern University and did very well. Key names that people would know, obviously Denzel Ward, Frank Clark. He had no name. Don't let nobody lie to you. No shade to Coach Ginn or nobody.
Right.
You know, it's a great man, took on that program in Glenville. Nobody else wanted it. That man made it happen over there. But no one knew who Frank Clark was. He knew who Frank Clark was.
Right.
Let's not get it twisted. But at that point, Frank was not noticeable enough. He wasn't even on the field. He didn't finish the season, but I went to school with his uncle.
Okay.
And his uncle and that kid, and Frank kept saying, train me. So he went on my bus tour. His very first offer was University of North Carolina. And we just took off from there. Connor Cook.
From
that program.
He was with Anthony when he was going there.
Grant was from that program. Donovan Munger. These guys are national champions on that 2013. What was that year? 2016? 16 team. These guys won national championships. Corey Smith. Them boys just coming from Akron.
Yeah.
When you start doing that bus tour, them kids start coming from all over. One year we had kids coming from Columbus.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So,
well, yeah, you was having kids coming from Columbus when I was there.
I remember we had Canada too.
Right.
We had a raw talent Canada going on.
Right.
The guy who was there, he ended up going home. Something happened. He had to go back home to Haiti. And he was a teammate of mine at Kent State University. So we've had taken kids all over and gotten them college exposure, got them college scholarships. I mean, not trying to brag, but we literally did the work of sending out the tapes, or at that time, and then the text messages, the emails of their film, get a relationship going. And I started throwing my own showcases.
Right.
So kids were getting offers at my showcases
as well.
Because I will also bring the Division II schools once they kind of put that NCAA restriction of the Division I schools coming. Well, heck, majority of these kids are Division II,
They're Division II, right? And because I was going to get to that point, name a few of the schools that you did when you did your tours. You go to.
So we always go to Ohio State.
Okay.
Ohio State is one of the key schools that would have 20 plus schools there. University of Michigan would have a bunch of schools there. West Virginia. These are schools that are nearby, so they didn't cost a lot on the bus, so they can make it feasible for the parents. Go there. But when we first started, we went all the way out to Georgia. We would go to Georgia first.
Yeah, I was on the road.
Because I was in this ego thing.
Right, you was on the road.
And remember, I had LaTwan Anderson. Let's not forget Twan.
Right.
He's supposed to be coming out soon. But LaTwan Anderson was out there, and Cam Anko. I mean, this white kid from Walsh Jesuit who ran a 4.41.
Wow.
4.41 laser, 4.37. Got a first offer at Georgia Tech.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we were bringing, but then our kids were so battle tested. When we got to these camps, we devoured people. It wasn't even close. There was only one particular group that started to give us competition. I'll say two. A group called Sound Mind, Sound Body. I don't know if you remember that group out of Michigan, Detroit. Them boys was always ready because they saw what we were doing. And said, well, we can do that in Detroit. And there's another group called AWP out of Fort Wayne.
Wow.
I rely respect to Mike Lito. He's now doing great things with representing players out of Dallas, Texas. But we take these kids to certain schools that had multiple schools there. I never really liked going to a school that only had just them hosting it, because if they only like 2 or 3 kids, well, heck, I got 40 some other kids on this bus. Just don't make any sense.
So let me ask you, you said with those kids, and we talked about that, and we're going to go back to Denzel Ward, because, I want Denzel Ward on my show. One of the things that we talked about, you good on time? You good?
I'm good.
I'll
run my house.
Okay, this is on tape. I say the same thing.
So much trouble.
Yeah, brother, I say the same thing. So, but we got this on tape. Oh, my wife and my daughter could be watching it.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's keep moving. Yeah. So we'll go back to Denzel Ward. But we was talking about these kids and getting in there. And you go into these schools. One of the things I will say that the kids who do come to your program are committed, because the way they get there is usually through a parent or guardian or somebody who's getting them there. So part of that, having the grades and the stuff, even though I ran really fast and they loved me, how important that other phase to that and working with that.
So you got to understand, I came from a junior college life. So there was a lot of hate towards Raw Town sports because the high school coaches didn't think that I was minding my own business.
And what you mean by that? Because Mark, I know. I totally get it because I was in the thick of it. Yeah, I was right. I was in the thick of that. Yeah. So, but explain, what was your issues? You think
they felt that high school coaches can be intimidated of something that they feel is questioning their leadership or their authority, and more so, a lot of high school coaches sometimes don't. They can coach a game, but the details of position-specific development might be removed from them.
Well, that's why they got so many coaches,
right? And they don't have a high school coach does not have time to teach skill technique as much as is technique to make this play work.
Totally agree.
Two different things.
Totally agree.
Even though they both complement each other, and so my business sometimes can question what they don't have time to teach as if they're not teaching something that these kids should have. Well, there's truth to that, but it's not out of spite. No high school coach is not teaching kid proper skill at the level that they need because they don't want to. They don't have time to.
Right.
And then there's restrictions on the off season and things of that nature. So you would think that the high school coaches would gravitate towards a Raw Town sports. That's why I created it. When I started the program, I told my high school coach I was going to do this because I used to do it for Shaker. See, people don't realize Shaker was on top, and I'll get back to the subject. Shaker was dominating at one point. Raw Talent was running their program.
Right.
We kept coming home from school in the off season, in the summer, in the winter, and working these boys out. So they were so battle tested, going against college guys and grown men pretty much. Shaker was running through people for a minute. Just couldn't beat Ignatius. But back to the subject, high school coaches just did not like the questioning me or I'm teaching something. And until they really came up there is when they really started to appreciate it.
And, and that's what it had to take, because I was part of that. I remember trying to get coaches or going to other programs and, because everybody get excited about it. When you hear about it and you go there, you'd be like, oh, man, this is awesome. And so you're always telling somebody. But, yeah, there were some coaches who really, they thought that, and like you say, they couldn't even coach at certain parts of the year. It was a lot of times they couldn't do some hands-on stuff. You thought they would appreciate that.
Still to this day,
the big egos.
Very disappointed in the black coaches. At this point, I don't even care no more. It's like, it is what it is. I won't pull out no names, but there's a lot of African-American coaches will not gravitate towards this because for whatever the reason. I know some of them.
Well, and it's been that way because every time I used to catch you was out at one of the white schools coaching. I'd be like, where were you at? I'm North Donio. I'm here out there. I was like, wow, okay, bro.
Really, the white coaches have taken to me the most.
Wow.
And bring their kids out and say, our kids need this. Mark, kick their tail and let's go. And so, and then you start getting these kids in school. Now that also questions, well, my son, he ain't getting no offers. Well, your kid works out here. So I always felt it was my reason. The community raised a child. Once again, going back to how Reverend Harris treated Mount Pleasant community. So then this is just who I am. Going back to our opening statement. That was a problem for high school coaches. Well, you didn't get this kid an offer for whatever reason. I don't know what happened. It's not my job to even care.
Right.
Your kid is looking for an offer. Here you go. I know a couple of schools. I think he fits this type. Let's go. And then we started taking these kids to HBCUs. Let's talk about that. But it was an issue.
HBCUs are hard. They have no money. They have no offers. They don't. All right. So you say it's not true. So what's your view on the HBCUs?
HBCUs don't come up.
What you mean by that?
The schools up north.
Oh, because you said most of them are in the South, right?
All the really, really good ones.
All the really good ones. So they figure all their players are down there.
They won't use the budget to come up here. And I'm on a tail now. I don't mind saying it on this because it's a shame. HBCUs are traditional schools like everybody. You got private, you got state, right? I think Hampton is private, right? Howard, look at Clark, that's a state school. But it's uniquely different from any other college because it's an HBCU. Only a certain demographic is going there. So it's somewhat private, no matter what you try to spin it.
You say it is private.
It is private, right? So African-American males graduate 33% more HBCUs, yet they spend their athletic dollars only in the South, unless you are transferred from some major school. So this is every school. It's not just HBCUs. When you're competing for a college scholarship, your kid has to be 2 to 3 times better than that kid from that state, because the state kid only costs this amount.
I see what you're saying. I got you. I just caught on what you're saying. I got you.
Costs this amount. But they need to change the rule for HBCUs. Make it all private, one cost. And therefore, you give out scholarship to the kid who deserves it, not just to the kid who is in your state. It makes it so much tougher. I have an African-American young man. I want to say right. He's a mulatto, all right, because he's a biracial kid. So 6'3", 180, university school.
You know, Mark, you can't say mulatto anymore. You know, you're going to get culture canceled.
Mulatto, right? Is not it?
I guess not.
Mulatto is the appropriate name for it.
It is?
Yes, mulatto.
Really?
Biracial kids.
It's called mulatto?
Mulatto, yep.
That's not I haven't heard that in a long time.
I didn't know that. My wife is mulatto. My wife
really?
Is Becky.
And they call them mulattoes?
Yeah, well, that's what it's called on the West End for a long time. Yeah, it's mulatto.
But you know, I'm just tripping. I just
I haven't
heard it in so long. I'm like,
hold on, they cancel that word.
Say that? Can they cancel that word too?
Yeah, no. So she's biracial. So this kid is 6'3", 180.
Okay.
Has a 3.75 GPA in all AP classes, and he scored, if I'm not mistaken, he scored one of the highest scores. You know, when you take AP classes, you also have to kind of get a score.
Right.
So he scored like one of the highest scores. Has a 1360 SAT. This kid is a little tight in the hips. He's a track runner as well. Broad jumper, one of the top in the nation. I'm promoting him. Nah, we're good. You would think you would want to have that kid on your team. This is an African-American kid who did everything the right way. No, they'll take that kid in the transfer portal, or that kid who may have gotten a little trouble at Ohio State because you think that kid is the best fit for your school versus.
Wow. That's
how it works. So I put the pressure on these schools. And if you notice, who's been up here? Winston-Salem State University has been up here. NC
well, you
Central.
know, you started Winston a long time ago. That was one of your first schools,
NC Central was the first one.
Okay.
That coaching staff went to Shaw. Some of them went to A&T, some of them went to Central, some went to Shaw. And then that coach from Shaw, Coach Boulware, ended up going to Winston-Salem State. Greg Pruitt Jr. started that.
Okay.
They put me on to it. And then when Ray Williams got in trouble for that murder charge at Benedictine, we broke our necks to get that boy out of jail, and we got him to Shaw. And Ray went to Shaw and did well for himself. Got a degree.
Okay.
TJ Bolden went with him. So we started getting these guys in North Carolina. And they started really making us earn it, but it kept it going.
So what do you think about Coach Prime and his decision to move on?
I don't feel sorry for the HBCUs. I don't know all the particulars, but he did what he needed to do, which he brought light to HBCUs. That was already there, but he just made it a little more livelier. He made it more. The HBCU community should be very grateful to Coach Prime because people are noticing HBCUs. They always been there. Like I started this whole thing years ago, but people still didn't know like they know now. And then you see what happened with Ed Reed. He went a little too far, but I understood his passion. Because what I'm telling you is my experience.
I think Reed, I don't know what his deal is. Why he's going on Shannon Sharp. He don't like everybody. Like, what is he? I don't know if he's trying to get attention himself or what the heck is that all about?
I feel like he went about this the wrong way. But I'm telling you right now, the experience that he's talking about, that is real. I was not there.
Well, he was a coach. He's a coach too, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's no longer the coach there.
Right. Okay.
They let him go because he can't go ranting and think he's gonna keep a job.
Right.
But he went off. It's needed. George Floyd passed, right?
Okay.
Sad. Terrible thing that happened. But look the effect of that. When you look at some of the things that happened, some of these people are modern day martyrs for a cause, even though they weren't probably living for that cause, but it ended up happening. Look at the effect that it had. Him going on a rant about what was going on, this is happening. And yet you're crying, HBCUs are crying. Money has been given over there. It could be really messed up how they deal with things. things. How they deal with kids. How they deal with
misappropriation of money, all that.
I wasn't there, so I can't say that, but I can tell you, right, it doesn't shock me. So him going off inappropriately, I will say that you got a chance to see the good side with Prime, and you got to see the bad side with the passion that Ed Reed is talking about. I just feel like he went about it the wrong way.
So you think he going on to do some better things? He used that platform to do even better.
Who, Ed Reed?
No, Prime.
Prime's at Colorado now. And so now, look at that coaching staff. You know, it's diverse, but you're starting to get coaches. Majority of these kids are African-Americans playing these leagues. You need Black coaches. He's putting people on. I had a chance to meet Prime twice. And man, it was a great story behind that. But I know for a fact that, yeah, he's still Prime, but his heart's in the right place. He just offered one of our kids.
Yeah, really.
He just offered Brian Robinson, this kid who comes down from Austin Town Fish. This kid is 6'5", 255, 16 years old.
What he doing?
He plays defense. He has 40 offers.
40 offers. Jesus.
Yeah, I met him a couple years ago. He was a quarterback. He came down. His dad helped us get a van to go down to these 707 at Penn State. And he just wanted to watch. Raw talent. He's heard about him. His dads want to watch. The kids want to watch. That kind of threw me off. Red flag. What kid comes all the way down here and just want to watch, you know? But he's a different type of kid. He wants to watch. He wants to see. And then he said, I want to train here. And then he just started coming all the way from Youngstown and training here 2-3 times a week.
Jeez.
And then we went to the showcase in Michigan on the way. You know me, if I'm going to a showcase, if college coaches ain't there, we're going to do some college visits.
Okay.
So I took him to University of Toledo and they offered him. But no offer. He had no offers. They saw his size. They took my word and said, this kid going to be the next. And they offered him. And then from there, he just took off. Yeah. But so Coach Prime just offered him. His heart's in the right place. He's going to do some powerful things in Boulder, Colorado, which has a story behind that.
Yeah.
That wasn't the most friendliest place to African Americans.
No, it wasn't.
You know?
Really.
And then the guy who was the coach who had them on the top, he's one of the biggest Christian activists out. Yeah.
Really?
There's a big story behind that. I forgot that guy's name, but yeah, he was a coach and ended up being one of the big time. He's on WCRF all the time. Like, he's big time.
So let's talk about we were talking earlier before the show about these young guys and the change in things now. And you've been in it a lot longer than me. Anthony and my kids, they stopped. Anthony graduated. He's almost 30 years old now. Mark, believe that? Man, yeah, check that out. That brother's almost 30 years old, man. And he came to you. He was in middle school, right? So he's been out, and Brandon is 30.
Yeah.
So now Brandon was a real fast kid.
Yeah.
There's another.
I saw Brandon not too long ago.
Really?
I forgot where it was at. He was like, Coach Marley. Oh yeah.
Now, you had a lot of kids like Brandon came through there, had the talent and everything, and just now. What do you think? How that makes you feel? I know you had a lot of those kids come through, and you just be like, this kid, if he could just focus.
Well, football is not for everybody. And when you asked me what is raw talent, I said it depends on what you ask. To a certain aspect, raw talent is a ministry. Dad called it a sophisticated daycare center. And he said, if you're not careful, it's a ministry. He said, so be careful what you do and what you say around those kids and be consistent. Mark, I know your temper. I said, nah, Dad, I got you. I always wanted to be an example because football is just a tool. You can't use it all your life.
Right.
But you can use things that you learn from it throughout life. And so what that some kids didn't become football stars. For a couple of years, they weren't getting in trouble.
Right.
For a couple of years on Saturday nights, parents knew where their kid was at and they trusted. Some of the parents, I was just leaving. They would just drop them off, but majority would stay and watch the show.
They want to watch the show, right?
But those kids were around the community. Those kids met other kids, and something came out of that.
Hey, you best believe when they left up out of your spot, they weren't going nowhere but home. You leave up out of there on a Saturday, man. It was like they was going home. They was like, I'm home. I'm done for the night. That's for sure. So it is sort of like a ministry, and you do a lot of work with these kids and a lot of your personal time and everything in it. So tell us now on what's the highest working now? You got practice on Saturdays now?
Sunday nights. I stopped doing Saturdays because high school athletes, there's always basketball games. It's still OSHA regulated things that happen, and you want kids to have opportunity to get there. So Sundays, there's nothing that OSHA is going to restrict them from doing.
Okay.
So we go on Sundays now. And it started off at that time, a good night was, 60-something kids was a good night.
Right.
No, that's a bad night. Here,
Really?
we get a great night on a average 100.
Really?
But we've hit about 125, 130. We'll start hitting even higher numbers because what ends up happening is other organizations, especially from Michigan, they'll bring their kids to us to be battle tested.
Wow.
Just to say, hey, I want to get some work, different faces, Mark. Yeah, there's one. Matter of fact, the school was called, I forgot the name of the school, but out of Michigan, they won a state championship. And the coach texted me, said, thank you.
So you guys still breaking it up, offense, defense, and
still
the
same thing. Everybody got position
then
coaches.
You bring them all together and y'all throw down.
Yep. Coach Darden, who used to be one of them.
I mean, Darden's still there?
Yeah, he's working. He's helping out the DBs because I have to recognize that I'm not getting younger, right? And so I need to have somebody, if this is going to live past my knees can take it, right? I can still be in a position to direct.
You know, I was watching you at Denzel working out on your tape. I said, is that Mark? Because Denzel, you was telling him to go. He was running. You was like walking real fast.
Yeah. This was but back in the day, I was like,
you was running with those dudes. When my son was there, you was running with those guys.
Still locking dudes up.
And they would make you get on the field like, come on, Mark.
Man, they did that to me last year. I said, you know what? Let me get a month to get in shape, right? And I went out there and I was destroying guys. I mean, they was like, Coach Mark. I said, yeah, this is what I used to do. The one I was done, I took my shoes off. This one kid called me out. Oh, you gonna take your shoes off and it's my turn. I said, let me shut this dude up. I went to make a move and I heard something pop.
Ooh.
I would wish it was my hamstring. Have you ever pulled your quad?
No.
That was one of the most painful things I've ever had in my whole entire life. And from that point, after I nursed up and healed up.
You say you'd never go through that ever again.
Never again. Done with it.
So, Mark, we'll get ready to end. I want to talk to you about these kids today, man. We had a little bit about them, and they're different. And everything's different with them, the attitude and everything else. What's going on with these young brothers out here today in the streets, man? You know? Social
media. So even in the days of gangsterdom, there was a chain of command. But because of social media, I can become my own boss. Who are you to direct me? I can do some stupid stuff and people like it and get paid. YouTube, social media is giving out checks for who can be the most popular because then they can run TV ads or commercial ads on their platform and get paid. And I cut this kid a check. This kid got 6 million views. So who are you? Who's the expert? You know more than me, but I got more money than you. Doesn't that make me the expert? So there's no real guidance. Leadership has fallen to the side. These parents are these kids' friends. You know, I was just telling Denzel that, you know, some of the flaws I see in some of these universities when they recruit DBs is they're just getting the best athlete. But defensive back, you just can't be a best athlete. It's a mentality. Your ability only take you so far. The mentality is what's going to make you next level. These kids' mentality, these kids have abilities. These kids are gifted because there are resources out and they got resources. So, and these kids can go online and figure this stuff out. They can build a computer, they can build a TV. But it's the process, some of the process, the hard work, some of the things that they take for granted. I feel that's being missed in our program and then with our kids. It's really bad. These parents want to be friends or they're absent, period. You know, I'm over at Nathan Hale volunteering and it's rough over there. So it's just a different level of kid because the parents, the adults are really failing these kids. Remember back in the day, you couldn't even cuss around me. Right? Not these kids. A grown adult can do what they want to do, but a kid, who are you to be cussing around all these other parents? Who are you? Man, hey, every 5 seconds, hey, watch y'all's mouth. Because they're so used to doing it at home. These parents, they're just lowering their standards because they're just worried about so much other things. It's just, it's a problem.
It really is, man. You know, I bring on all my guests and I ask them the same question. You know, what's going on? What do you think the problem is out there? Do you got any solutions? And I'm saying that, man, because I'm hoping somebody come on here with an answer at one day, or maybe just keep listening to it till something really sticks. But it's a real challenge today of especially the African-American male.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
I started a foundation called Train Up a Child. And the whole purpose is to give speed, strength training,
mm-hmm.
skill development training, mentorship
mm-hmm.
to athletes from impoverished communities, at-risk communities. So what we're doing now, we're meeting with some people about some big money things. That young man, I mean, I was minutes away from when that kid got shot in the head, John Adams.
Wow.
Because that Nathan Hill's right on the corner.
Right.
And we saw the police going there. And I had talked to this one lady before about my program, and people give me money to get started. And what we're gonna do is something powerful. We can help change this. These kids want to be guided, and they fear adults. They just don't know to fear. They have not been instructed. But when you give them, you dangle something that they want. All right, now let me show you how to go get it. And you as the adult, the instructor, have to be patient to understand that you're about to deal with some stuff now. And you got to find different creative ways, going back to my dad, my pastor, of how to get to that kid's mind, how to trick them, to get them where they got to go. And now you're looking at, being better in their sport. Now possibly looking at getting their grades so they can play the sport. Now you're looking at college. This is how I conduct myself. Now I'm going to bus tour. This is how I conduct myself in a hotel. See, these kids from Raw Talent, they got that.
They got that.
Yeah.
You're doing it like you say in your way. It's the same way of the kids who get on the bus and they take them to all these different schools for college. They teach them how things to be proper before they get there. You do the same thing with your college tours and your stuff to do there. And we want more people to support what you're doing with that. And we'll use our platform to help you with that. And we'll be leaving information in our comments below on how you can get in touch with Mark, as well as links to his website and that kind of thing. So you can check out what they're doing over at Raw Talent Sports. And if you have a kid that you want to come there to learn, they can. And not just if they playing football. You may have a son, before we go, so that we don't get canceled, I guess, women. You do work out women. We haven't said nothing about the women. You do train. I forgot about that. And I got to go back to Denzel because we want Denzel on our show. But we go back to women. You do train women because my daughter, I had her coming there for a little bit when she was doing softball.
I got track runners right now. We got girls who run track. One of the top tennis players out of Cleveland, Ohio, out of Northeast Ohio, was a young lady, Tina. I forgot her last name. She played in Junior Wimbledon and all that stuff.
Okay.
Our Russian instructor, Oksana Bilinson, was bringing tennis players to me left and right.
For mobility.
Yep. Because the type of defensive back stuff, she was like, oh my God. This is how DBs move. We're the best athletes on the planet.
You know what? I'm just sitting there thinking about it. When they run back, crossing, changing direction,
fluidity,
all that. Tennis.
Acceleration, deceleration.
So if you do want to play tennis, that you might want to consider what he's saying here.
Our training will get you in tip-top shape. I started getting baseball players, softball, baseball,
all of that,
especially outfielders, because once again, DB
same
stuff,
thing, change the direction, right?
It's just good stuff to have. So we train them all. It don't matter.
Train them all. He does women and he does men. So
3 state championship rugby team, girl rugby teams, Lakewood, state champs. Yeah.
So no, Mark is on his craft and he's a good guy and he gives not just good sports advice, but he's there to mentor your kid as well. So Mark, I want to thank you for coming on our program tonight. And like I told you, man, as always, we close our program. We're going to let you talk here to this camera right here, man, and tell everybody what you want them to know, man. Take your time. You can say whatever you want, but make sure you give them how they can get in contact with you because that's the most important part. All right, go ahead.
I would say one of the main things as a parent that when you have an athlete, one of the main things you want to consider is one, understanding the sport. Don't just put your kid in the sport and leave it just up to your high school coach. And that's no knock on a high school coach, but that man or woman has responsibility of 50 plus kids, depending on how many kids on their team, from seniors, current to rising seniors to that special talent that you can't mess that up. You have a due diligence to get an understanding of not just the sport that your kid plays, but also the position that he or she may play. How recruiting works. Get to understand that type of stuff. Invest in your child. Your kid can only do so much at the high school. Find ways to make sure your kids is getting the athletic development, the position-specific skill development, tournaments. I know this stuff costs, but it costs more when you're getting them in and out of situations with the courthouse or when you're having to pay for college, or just trying to get he or she to be motivated. It costs you more from living in your room, in your house. So, it costs more on your psyche. Invest now. The Kevin Hart tickets, they can wait. I went, but I've always made sure that I did those things to make sure my kids are in the right place. Because if you want something, you got to put some skin in the game too. So I really want parents, and I'm gonna start a platform on my website where just informing parents on the do's and don'ts and things to look out for when it comes to recruiting. Some things that your high school coach may have said, but you couldn't make it to that particular meeting. The community raised a child. Get involved. You got high school football players. It is not enough to have just a great skilled athlete, because I'm telling you right now, the transfer portal has changed the game. You got college kids who are already 3-star, 4-star, 5-star offer kids. They're going to college and they're transferring to schools. So you're not just competing against another high school scholarship kid. You're also competing against kids who are currently already in college. So invest. Put your kid at training. If you're in Northeast Ohio, you should most definitely come to Rawtown Sports. You go to the website, rawtownsports.org. If you're less fortunate, you can go to tuacf.org and email me there, and we can look at how we can help get your kid trained up, transportation, get it paid for. If you have a heart, because of the big work that we're trying to do in the inner city community, and now I was just reached out to by Shaw High School athletic director, we need to gain monies to help put trainers and people in place for girls volleyball, girls basketball. We got to get it done. We cannot leave these kids behind, because if they don't have nothing to do, they'll find something to do. You'll be worrying about how you could have did something and you ain't do nothing. So you go to tuacf.org, trainupachildfoundation.org, and you can donate there to help the cause, and we can do some big noise in the city of Cleveland.
Hey, so that's Mark Harris, Raw Talent Sport. Look in our comments or look in our description below. I'm going to have all that information and those links to how you can donate to his program. And come check him out. Mark, where do you guys work out at?
We're back in Valley View at the Old Dome.
Oh, at the Old Dome out in Valley View.
They remade it. It's really nice.
Oh, and did they put another dome up?
Nope. It's a hard ceiling, and it's really nice. 100-yard field.
Okay.
60-yard wides. I got my weight room in there. I got the speed track in there. So that's where I train everybody at now.
Yeah, come check him out, man, and you'll be very impressed. And he take them little, so you don't have to be in high school. We talking small
Friday nights,
youth kids, all the way up. And it's a very good thing if you want to get those kids tired and bring them home. Take those youth to that Friday night youth thing. He runs the hell out of them. But trust me. All right, we'll see you on next episode. Thanks.
This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.